down the hall into a mirror?
Here, I
Perfect,
know.
Perfect. Oh, yeah, I like that.
You're like a little Marilyn, huh?
Yeah, I like a little Marilyn. Here we go. Okay. We're live. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to another Bruce Starr show here on Facebook Live. Boy, am I excited to have on a great guy. I've got to tell you that Dr. Eric Pearl is by far one of the most interesting people that I know. Dr. Pearl, as he puts it, was just somebody who was a chiropractor 1 minute, and then all of a sudden, the next day, he was something else. Dr. Eric Pearl is a visionary and a true pioneer in the field of energy healing. He is the establishing force behind the Reconnection and the reconnective healing. And he's featured in top media. He's been on the Dr. Oz show, in the New York Times, on CNN. He's presented at leading venues, including the United Nations and Madison Square Garden. His book, The Reconnection, Heal Others, Heal Yourself, is an international bestseller available in 40 languages. And it's been endorsed by people like Deepak Chopra and Wayne Dyer, the late Wayne Dyer. And with him, who I've never met before, but Dr. Pearl and I have done a few different shows before. I've got to tell you that one time, Dr. Pearl is so accommodating, such a great guy. We made an agreement to do a radio show together. It must be a year and a half ago, maybe even 2 years ago. And I get a call a few minutes before the show was supposed to start. And he tells me, I hope this works out because I'm standing on a street corner in Italy calling in to do the show. It's like, oh my God, what a guy. So he is really something. Jillian Fleer is the head of Insight and Development in collaboration with Dr. Eric Pearl. She oversees the direction and the vision for the Reconnection and the Reconnective Healing Global Community, which is what we're going to learn all about in this interview. I can just keep going with the introduction, but you guys are so fantastic. I want to get right into the show and welcome you both to the show.
Right.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm sorry we're not phoning in from a street corner in Germany or Italy somewhere.
That was very sexy, Dr. Pearl. I've got to tell you that, just the fact that you were, I just could vision you on a street corner in Italy, looking at all the gelato and the pizza and the pasta and all the restaurants. But you instead chose to talk to me on my radio show. So forever, I will be beholden to you. And another thing I want to say before I go too far is, I've known you for several years now, actually. We're not best friends. We've seen each other at expos, kind of hung out a little bit. But you are looking very dapper, my friend. And I have a feeling it has something to do with the beautiful lady that's sitting next to you. So, wow.
Thanks.
I know. So,
thank you.
Welcome you both to the show. Dr. Pearl, I could never do your introduction, anything like having you talk about it. It's just so interesting for you to kind of, if you don't mind, because this is for a greater Facebook Live audience. They probably never heard our shows that we did together. Could you start by telling us a little bit about you and how this whole thing happened where you were one guy one day and another guy the next?
So you want a little bit of the beginning story, huh?
Yes, I do.
Well, I had practiced, as you know, as a doctor of chiropractic for 12 years when one night a few strange things happened. The next thing I know, I'm awakened by a lamp next to my bed. It turned itself on. My bedroom door that was closed when I went to sleep was open. I had a very odd feeling as if somebody was in my house. So I got up, I searched the house, I couldn't find anyone, and I told myself it was my imagination. And I went back to sleep. That Monday, when I went in to see my chiropractic patients, I would adjust them physically, and then as I would remove my hands from them, I felt sensations in my hands. as I would move my hands around, I would see their bodies go into involuntary movements, their fingers, their arms, their legs, their feet, their facial muscles, their eyes would dart back and forth. When they opened their eyes, they started asking me who had come into the room. Just as I felt people in my house that weekend, they were feeling people in the room with us, even without knowing the story. They could feel where my hands were when I was not touching them, but I was somewhat near them, maybe a foot or several feet away. They could still feel. They reported seeing colors they'd never seen, smelling flowers they'd never smelled, having people who came in and weren't able to walk were walking again, weren't able to hear were hearing again. I know it sounds like a healing the blind story. It didn't happen that way with every single person, but it happened that way with a lot of people. We would get reports and calls from patients' doctors asking what had gone on because children with cerebral palsy or epilepsy were walking and running and playing and not having seizures and not needing medications. What did I do was the question, and I really didn't know. I had just held my hands near them, allowed myself to feel for sensations. And what we're understanding more of today is that these frequencies that science now calls the reconnective healing frequencies of energy, light, and information began to entrain with the different people and bring them back to a more optimal state of overall balance and health, which demonstrated itself not just physically, but physically was what we first recognized, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and it demonstrated itself by thrusting these people onto their life path much further and faster than any of them seemed to have had in mind.
Wow, that is such an interesting story. You know, I personally would find I would love to be able to heal beyond the typical, original ways that you were healing. And I think it's what I love so much about your story is you haven't just taken a talent that can do so much, but you've put it right back into the world, and not just with 5 or 10 or 15 clients. Together with Jillian, you've gone out into the world to help as many people as possible. And boy, that really hits me in my heart space. And I got to love someone that does that, just feels so driven to help others that, you're out there doing it. I think that's just great.
But thank you. And the point is, what Jillian and I are doing is teaching others, teaching you, if you so choose, because you said you'd like to be able to do this, exactly how to do anything and everything in the way of healing that I can do, and anything and everything in the way of healing that any human being on this planet can do, without ritual, without technique, without complication, without steps or procedures, without objects or crystals or jewelry, but just recognizing that you are enough. Your very essential essence, your being, is enough. And what we have to learn in able to facilitate this work at its highest is that we are enough. And it's not just the mouth, the words, but what we show you and allow you to learn as we share with you through experience is the discovery that you are enough. And once you discover it for yourself, you don't need to learn it or memorize it or hope, believe, or even pray about it. You just are it and you know it.
Wow. So much of it is self-love and self-acceptance and self-confidence. Jillian.
Yeah, I mean, I think that our human discovery, and I like the way Eric sort of explained the impetus or the beginning of what happened. You used the word imagination.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. And I thought that was really great because imagination isn't exactly linearly how we might at first blush understand that. It actually is the very composition of our biology and the quantum physics of what we are in relationship to, I'll say, space-time or space memory. And when you speak about your heart and that innate desire to help others or to be an influence in the world that's of love, of God, of human goodness, I think at the very core of us, that is our program, that is our nature, that is the imagination that we are constructed with, and something in the reconnective healing frequencies, because it really isn't an intelligence. We refer to it as an it. Seems to carry a characteristic or a few very particular characteristics as it interacts with us, almost as if we are inspiration, it is a conduit, and as we, through frequency and vibration, as Eric said, energy, light, and information is how science studies this source, if you will, or force. When it interacts with us, it seems to, without us having to think about it, which is the unusual part, without an intention or a lot of mental activity, it seems to elevate cellularly the vibration and coherence of that innate love state, that biology. And that's very special, because spontaneous healings and life progress is most easily accomplished when we are in that state. And so we're excited about teaching everyday people. It's more of a sharing. I wouldn't even say it's a teaching.
And it's so wonderful. It's so wonderful to see a male and female, and because it just makes it easier for everyone in your audience to take in your information, because they're not just hearing it from a man, they're not just hearing it from a woman. You can really include everyone in your audience. And a couple of the other things that comes to my mind, you truly were in the forefront of this kind of new life, because everybody talks about 2012, and I really believe that something definite happened in 2012. That you were in the forefront. You were before that. So here you are, not just in the beginning of it, but doing this. And as I'm sure that the years go on, people that would never be into this stuff, never be open to this, are all of a sudden saying, wow, I'm really interested in this, and I really want to learn more. And I'm sure, I'd love for you to explain it better than me. How are you feeling what's going on now in our universe?
How am I feeling? I am feeling that it's almost as if at one point we stepped into a pool that was filling with water. And the next hour, it was to the ankles. And the next 2 hours, it was to the knees, and then it's to the hips. Or the next number of years, it rose and it rose. And now, if we step into the pool for the first time, or if we've been in the pool for the entire time, we still are at that same ascended level. In other words, the frequencies of reconnective healing, of energy, light, and information are rising and expanding to encompass more and more of us. And we are moving onto a level where, as more of us interact with this, it will eventually reach, I believe, a critical mass.
And you're already tapping into the critical mass, because you've been teaching and sharing. I mean, even 2 years ago, you told me you were going here and going there, and you were traveling to places that people can only dream of. And now, tell us what where you're going, and the kind of crowds and the kind of people that you're speaking to. I'm going to step away for a second. I've got to find your book, but I'm going to let you go ahead and answer that question.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important to note that really the reconnective healing process pioneered a lot of what seems at this moment to be sort of common speak. And in the early 90s, when the reconnective healing intelligence presented itself, I think really at that moment, it started to influence what we'll call 0 point field. So really what we're discussing and between us is I think you're really accurate when you say that Eric and this reconnective healing intelligence pioneered a lot of, at this moment, what we're kind of in the common mainstream talking about. But really back then,
there wasn't anyone talking about it. Today, we have Lynn McTaggart, who has written The Field. We have Nassim Haramein. We've got different people who are Joe Dispenza. We've got various people who are beginning to access and understand and be able to explain different insights, not a full understanding yet, but insights of various ways in which it may be working.
And, you know, it's probably worth noting that at least Lynn and Joe have not only experienced reconnective healing, but they've had their reconnection. So you talk about this field that we're all part of as consciousness. We're sharing and learning a lot about what is consciousness at this point. But these frequencies have been influencing this 0 point field now for more than 2.5 decades. We're coming up on a 25th anniversary of really that, what we call One Strange Night. Right.
You found it.
That's
you got
great.
A hardcover too.
Oh, that's so great.
One of
Let
the
me see if is it autographed? Darn. All right. Well, we'll have to work that out.
Here, hand me that book. I'll autograph it right now.
This is it. It's a beautiful book. And if you have not seen this book or if you have not read it, it is incredible. You will absolutely love it. Look for it. I'm sure you can find it on Amazon and just about any place, any commercial booksellers that are online and offline. And it's just, it was a wonderful read and so fascinating. And when I spoke to you last, you were actually going to be doing a seminar down in Miami, and I heard through the grapevine that it was incredible. And tell me where you're going to be speaking next. I hear you're going to be making your way back to Florida.
We will.
Yeah, we're going to be in Orlando actually on August 2nd.
Second through
2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Second to fourth.
We've made some interesting changes. We are now introducing our students globally in multiple languages to what is our sort of first step, which is the Online Essentials program. And that Online Essentials gives them a very intimate 8 hours where they are moving through what I'm going to say a beautiful introduction and much, much more to the reconnective healing frequencies, along with hours of play and exercises. And I think it's a bucket list program in my mind. No matter what you are intending to do at this point, in understanding that you're more than just your physical body, we have found a way, I think, to teach this process for family and friends. So when you come to Orlando, Florida, you're really stepping into what we call the live immersion. And that's taking now an understanding of what you have begun to move through and putting you in a group of several hundred like-minded others to really steep and take a deep dive into a relationship. I'm going to say it's a relationship. It's a relationship with this bandwidth that makes itself ever present and where you can witness and observe changes on so many levels within yourself and with others. And that's another reference point.
Right. And it is, and another reference point is, we gave you the wrong dates. It's August 3, 4, and 5 for Orlando. Let me double check that because I saw what you just posted. Orlando is August 3, 4, and 5. We'll also be in Denver, September 7th through 9. And we'll be, yes, and we'll be in Chicago, November 9 through the 11th.
Wow. 3 full days with you guys. Boy, what a treat that would be. But we spoke about relationships, and I am a relationship
don't threaten yourself with a good time if you're not going to have any follow through here.
I know. I know. I didn't get to the last one. That's what we're talking about. Miami.
A very different program then. So
Yeah.
Tell me about being a relationship guy. How did you guys meet, and how did it grow from a possible friendship to something more serious?
Me?
sure.
I never know who wants to tell the story. Actually, I met Jillian. She had come to a presentation in Miami that we had given. And when I asked for a volunteer, someone who was unable to raise their arm, maybe past the shoulder level. And a friend that she had come with raised his hand, his other hand. And apparently he was a former what?
NCAA
swimmer who had a problem with his joint, and every time he would raise his arm higher than that level, it would come out of the socket, cause great discomfort for an extended period of time. So surgically at the time, the doctors recommended something called a putty plate surgery, in which case what they did was they surgically stitched the muscles into place. Instead of fixing it so he could raise his arm, it locked it into that position. And so he came up on stage. We gave him a demonstration to feel it in his hands for a few moments. He regained his full range of motion, which he has to this day. So Jillian and her friend, who had only come for that Friday night, decided to stay for the weekend. And we sort of kept seeing each other and noticing each other throughout the weekend. And then at one point, I was building up to a crescendo of energy to make a really strong point to the audience. And suddenly, in this room of about 800 people, there was an explosion. One light bulb in the whole room blew up, exploded, fell to the ground, and landed at her feet. And I knew I should pay attention.
Good way to figure that out. That's a very good way. And tell me from your point of view now how that all kind of came about and what your feelings were when you kind of first met.
Oh.
Yeah, tell us. I haven't heard of this one.
That's why I'm asking.
No, it's a beautiful question. You know, I have been very blessed to work with a variety of profound, I would say, life-changing healers throughout my life. And this was 2012, and it was just happenstance. I was at the Miami Circle that weekend. And
I was there.
Oh, you were?
I was there. December 12th, 2012?
Yes.
My wife and I were there.
You were. Well, that's beautiful. We probably ran into each other and didn't even know it. But Eric's training program was just before that. So that was on that Monday, I think. And so it was really quite I'm going to say there was a big quantum corridor, a crack, I would say, a portal opening up on so many levels that weekend. And I think that knowing how the universe accelerates, presents that, I tend to pay attention. I tend to pay attention when the universe is speaking very, very loudly. And I think it was a moment that we were in the unknown together and had some things to share with one another. And really, for the first couple of years of our friendship, before it evolved into what the relationship guy now know as a relationship, there was the opportunity to really move many things forward in both what is reconnective healing and how can we share this in I'm going to say a more everyday way, where the everyday person can recognize that there isn't really, I'm going to quote Marianne Williamson because I really love the way she makes this point. She explains our greatest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our greatest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And in one sense, the world doesn't speak to us in anything we are interacting with that suggests that we are powerful beyond measure. It speaks to us in the language of, you are broken, and this is how you'll fix yourself. So reconnective healing was one of these opportunities that really says you're enough. It really gives you the cornerstone to know, and I think Eric has the very authenticity and truth to walk in the world, never veering from that. He doesn't veer from that very important piece of consciousness, that there isn't anything required beyond what we are and have the capacity to engineer within rather than without. And I think we fell into that. And people always say, your love is extraordinary. What is this between you? And I have to say, maybe this is what love is. There really aren't words. I can't give you linear language to explain what we share. It just is.
And by the way, Eric never told me that you were romantically involved. He didn't send anything in the promotional material that said, oh yeah, we're together. I just sensed it. I just sensed, the energy between you was so nice. I'm not going to say I assumed it, but I sensed it. And so I'm really happy to see two people together, not just helping the world, but doing it together. I mean, wow, what an energy it is to have two people coming together and making 1 + 1 = 5 or 6, and nothing more exciting in the world than that.
Well, the teaching has, thank you. The teaching has so much evolved now that Jillian shares it with me. Coming to the Reconnected Healing training programs is a whole new experience for people, a whole new experience.
Part of that is.
Look, are you there? I think we're frozen.
Yeah, we lost you a little bit. You can continue. We just have like 2 or 3 more minutes left. And I want to make sure that you leave your contact information. It's gone so fast, I can't believe it. But go ahead. You can finish and then leave your contact.
I was just saying, teaching this with Jillian, the Reconnected Healing training programs have become an entirely new experience, which we hear over and over again from people who are saying, I'm so glad I've come back. There's just so much more I'm getting in so many different ways. If you're looking to find the Reconnected Healing training programs or anything more about us, whether it's in the US or internationally, you can always go to the website, which is www.thereconnection.com, thereconnection.com. And that has a calendar of events, and it talks about where we're speaking and what we're doing and how you can learn how to facilitate healings, not only for yourself, but for others as well.
And again, you went beyond tonight to make it to the show. You're in the middle of a desert somewhere. I know Marilyn is making it very comfortable for me to watch and to be a part. She's definitely a part of this.
There's Marilyn.
Marilyn. I'll tell you what happened. We just returned from Madrid, and our editor, we're completing the second draft of a book together. And so we got to LA, and my friend said, if you're going to finish this draft, get to Palm Springs. You've got 3 weeks before we leave again. And so we quickly deposited ourselves, only to be in this massive heat wave. And again, I think it was sort of a regional loss of internet. But yes, we're here, and Marilyn's here. And thank you so much for having us. And
My pleasure. You guys are just great. And, we need to stay in touch if there's anything I could do to let people know about specific things that you're doing in the future. But before we go, how hot is it?
It's about 109, which I don't think is so uncommon. But I think what's happened is that even Los Angeles got so hot that it's just stayed in this very elongated, no break period of time. So energy at the very most fundamental level, I think, has limitations, but we as Energy, Light, and Information do not. So I think we got that internet going real fast to make sure we didn't inconvenience you or your show. Where are you located?
South Florida. I'm up in Jupiter.
You're in Jupiter? Well, I must say, my very dear late friend, Jacques Fresco, I don't know if you know Jacques, or his partner, no, okay, you're not far enough away not to come join us. So we're going to get you the online Essentials portal time, and that it might highly motivate you to come join us in Orlando. Come be our guest.
Thank you. That would that warms my heart. I want to thank you guys. I've come to love you. Dr. Pearl. I'm of course now Jillian also, but someone who goes out of their way to speak to not to me, but to speak to my audience and to share your wealth of knowledge and experience and healing is just just tops in my book. So God bless. Thank you so much for doing whatever you could to be on the show. And I look forward to seeing you again soon, one way or another.
Thank you, and God bless you, Bruce.
Thanks.
Bye-bye now, everybody. We'll see you again next show. Great show. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.